Chapter 5, Episode 5. Sally was pumped up for their next hit. Daisy had told her to let it go if they couldn't do it. But they had a big budget and a big bonus if they could do it. Big and bloody was preferred. Neither Sally or Billy weighed the big bonus into their decision. For Billy, it was a challenge for his technological and organizational skills. It was risky. The president, a tyrannical, corrupt dictator of an oil-rich American country, was in New York to give a speech before Billy wondered if it was corporate-owned United Nations Assembly. He personally had become very rich from selling out to a based in Huston multinational oil company. His people, practically slaves, had become poisoned by the reckless polluting from irresponsible drilling methods. Anyone who ever thought to speak out against the environmental disaster was murdered. Any journalist that attempted to report anything negative was murdered. Any teenager was open game for gang rape. The country was sinking in squalor while the rich get rich on plunder. There were more armed like robot military security in New York City for his visit than citizens. Almost. Any student that wrote a critical comment in an email or on a community website was arrested and put in cages that had been erected for the state of emergency that was unofficially in effect. The city was under martial law to protect a holy criminal. So it wasn't going to be easy. Billy had figured out a plan. He was good at that. Cooking was like that. You had an idea what you would like to eat, you researched how to do it, what materials were needed, and then it was just a matter of doing it. This particular delight required a small high-speed submarine, a high-powered rifle that was pretty much an anti-aircraft gun, American-made, and perfect timing. It would also be a bit messy. Anyone in the car with the visiting tyrant would die. Anyone near the car might die. And if not, would have to be fished out of the river and flown to hospital. The Hudson River was well patrolled on the surface, but visibility under the surface was about the length of a kid goat. That was to their advantage. Billy had a program that mapped with random wavelength sonar every detail in the river. He also had infrared that was very useful for seeing short distances. You couldn't always tell if a can on the riverbed was Coke or a coffee brand, but that was not necessary for their mission. Billy was happy to be in control of a challenging mission, especially one that was like a video game. He had hacked into the various surveillance that tracked the convoy from the airport. There were 6 limousines. The president was in the 3rd. Billy had a lock on his smart device. His driver, his head of security, and 2 personal bodyguards were with him. That was unfortunate but also acceptable collateral damage. One of his wives was in the 4th car. She would likely be okay after dealing with the shock. His other wives had stayed home to show a little regard for the American monogamy custom. The convoy left for John F. Kennedy International Airport and followed the Belt Parkway because it was easier than taking the convoy through Queens and Brooklyn. Safer. They would take the 278 and cross on the Brooklyn Bridge. The plan was to take the FDR drive up to the United Nations headquarters, get the bugger to make his speech, and get him back the same way. He could be hit anywhere on the way, but getting out of the city would be a bit of a problem after that. The East River would be the best bet. The Brooklyn Bridge was the best place to strike. It was unlikely enough that anyone would try anything there. Submarines were not so easy to come by. The advantage of the bridge, from an assassin with scruples point of view, was that there was no other traffic, no pedestrians, just heavily armed military. They were trained for war. That's what they had signed up for. 30 seconds. Billy released the decoy with a sonar signal on the far side of the bridge, CO2 pressure inflating dinghies. It would attract attention, maybe even some panic. Sally only needed 12 seconds above water to climb out of the hatch, aim her weapon, and blow the third limo off the bridge. 3, 2, 1. Sally took her time, made certain the gun was well steady and she was focused on the third car. It was far enough away that she, mostly Billy, had calculated the distance the missiles would have to travel, how fast the car traveled. She aimed at the front of the car in front of the car and fired 16 small missiles. The first one skinned the top of the president's car. The next took root in the hood. The next as well. The next took off the front window. The next the side window and 2 bodies. The next, well, it turned out the limousine was well ripped apart. It flipped over and didn't burst into flames until a missile hit the gas tank. What happened after that, they would have to see on Billy's smart device. Because the hatch was closing and the sub was submerging. Shots were coming their way, but bullets didn't go far in the water. Wow, they located us fast enough. Let's hope they don't have any subs out there and about. They headed down the East River, over the continental shelf to the Atlantic and north to Canada.